A quick reply, and I should point out YouTube is now censoring things that concern any recent news stories, including news channels, on a shooting involving a judge. And that video I put up just a minute ago on the other channel will probably get killed. It'll be cacked. So someone asked me about a couple of things about propaganda and such. I'll try to post a link, but you know how YouTube is these days. I'll try a different link to another video as well. This guy did a great job researching and debunking propaganda in China. Is it about China or from them? I don't think that link is showing it anyone else. I closed and reopened this thread, and it only says one reply, when I can see both the link and the reply myself if I log in. Is this propaganda? Or is there truth to what the person claims? Bias is rife on both sides of the conflict. Link posted in this thread video, not sure if it'll hide. Okay. Number one, I didn't approve the comment yet because don't know anything about it. One of them is, well, let's just cover the subject matter. Every single country where you can't see reporters outing every single local official in the neighborhood and get them jailed that when they commit a crime, and accuse them of this stuff without being able to prove it. You should assume flat out, because politicians who have power will abuse it eventually. It always will happen. You can't not have corrupt politicians. It just doesn't happen. Sorry. In the case of China, the only time anybody gets caught doing it is because the official government says they did it, and then the official news agency run by the government says they did it. That's the clue. You need to be able to see news agencies in the area say these things. Now I'm going to bring up China and I can't pronounce it correctly, but it's a group called the Uyghur. I think that's how it's pronounced. Sorry. And the Chinese government's war on them, and also on NT TV, New Tang Dynasty TV, and a group of people who are part of a religious organization or group that decided to go after the Chinese government because the Chinese government chose to go after them. In a communist country like China and Russia, atheism is usually the religion. It's not always, obviously, but in most communist countries, they tend to emphasize atheism or eliminate religion. Not because it's a good or bad idea, but because it's a competitor, which is kind of sad. The next thing is one of the religious groups in China was endorsed by the Chinese government for a while, and then when people decided they didn't want to obey what they were told, they became the worst scourge on the planet, flipped the switch the other way, and started basically hunting them to extinction. And then there's I can't pronounce it correctly, sorry, the Uyghur people. Now I'm going to bring up only one reference point for this. I don't trust anything that an official government sponsored and approved of statement source ever says, because it's always by definition going to be a lie. There's no reason to believe otherwise. But I also don't believe dissidents immediately either. So I'm going to give you a story about the Chinese government only, not the Russian government or any other group. I will bring up the Ukraine situation in a minute. I have dealt with a person in the United States who was very obviously an asset, who was completely out of their element, fish out of water mode, from China, who was sent here to go find ex-Chinese nationals that had escaped, that had defected, and go screw with them. Or people who had peaceably, or maybe not so legally, crossed the border and escaped Chinese influence. One of the things the Chinese Communist government does is they emphasize to you that it doesn't matter what country you're in, they will find you and fuck with you. Because if they don't have you repeat that back to your relatives in China, people think they can escape the Chinese government in some way. Also, so you will be encouraged to come back so they can, well, it's like 1984, so you'll volunteer to be hanged by the neck until dead. I've personally witnessed a obvious Chinese government asset running around in Portland, Oregon, screwing with people. It's creepy as hell. They do things on a basis of almost cartoonish level of crazy, seeing how you react and seeing what they can do with you. basically to get a reaction out of you to size you up. Now that sounds exactly like the paranoid schizophrenic on the we call them the wing nuts because they hold the world on its axis on each corner that are yelling about stuff. But this literally did actually happen, and I got warned by the local police department. Yeah, that's somebody who's from the Chinese embassy in another part of the state or another state. We don't know which. We're trying to figure him out. And he's running around looking for people he's been told to harass. Basically, I helped somebody fix their computer. They were apparently a former Chinese national, and I was on their shit list for a couple of days because they wanted to mess with me. And I also ran into a group of people who are part of a cult. They are. That are very cult-like, but they're kind of pleasant. But it's sort of like dealing with a vegan Nazi. Yes, I said it. They're pleasant, but they're scary at the same time. That's one of the groups of people that's being harassed and hunted by the Chinese government because, again, they've escaped the Chinese government's influence and the Chinese government can't do anything about them. Now, as for Russia, and more accurately, the East and West Ukraine, politicians in Ukraine that want to stay alive at one time would suck up to one side or another. Others would suck up to one side or another just to get elected. In our country, it's more like that. You don't survive politically unless you kiss the right ass or the left ass. Because you don't want to kiss in the middle, I guess. But the point is, turn the other cheek. But the point is, in some countries, it's not that you lose your political life, it's that you die. And you will see videos of people saying, in the United States, saying all sorts of crazy stuff they would never say if they knew they were being recorded, which is the reason we recorded. Remember that warning I gave you about news reporters not being able to out somebody for saying grab them in the hoo-hoo? Yeah. You have to be able to hear and see this stuff in order to find out whether or not you're in a free, or at least vaguely free society. Now, the person who asked this question of me may or may not have a political bias. I don't care. This is a good question. If it's about any place that's contentious and there isn't completely free press or an underground press outing people that you can listen to, and if you can't find out who those members of the press are so you can see if they're actually biased, that's actually important. They can't be secret members of the press. They have to be out and proud so that we can check to see if they have a bias. Otherwise, we don't know who's telling us what. If you get information from a country like that and it outs people every once in a while and they get embarrassed, that's probably much more healthy. In the case of anything concerning Russia and the Ukraine, I'm going to declare a bias in favor of the Ukraine, or in favor of Ukraine. We're not supposed to call them the Ukraine. I don't know what the proper vernacular is, and I'm sorry. And when it comes to religious organizations, including an organization, a religious group that I don't necessarily agree with and is a small part of a very large part that's also been involved in crap that I don't like happening and I'm against them, having an entire government decide one day you're exactly the religion they want to promote because they think you're harmless, and then they're literally saying you're the devil and hunting you down, I don't believe anything that the government says after that point concerning them. There's no reason to. And until, in the case of China, until they're literally going through another revolution, overthrowing their own government and getting rid of them and getting rid of the old guard and doing it completely, we can't trust anything they have to provide. I would only trust dissidents at this point. Tiananmen Square is a forbidden subject in China. It happened. That I want to discuss it. I also want to point out that in Russia, they had rules to limit Putin, and then he made sure somebody got elected that would remove them. And they didn't do a complete task of everybody who was in the former regime and had power is forbidden from holding office under penalty of life imprisonment or death. They didn't do that. That's why they're in this pickle. If they had to choose a new politician each year, they wouldn't have a military strongman running the country, much less a KGB agent running it as a secret government. They really do have a deep state. We do, but don't really here. Depends on how you talk to and how far you want to push that definition. We really don't have as bad a situation. In China, it's not the deep state. That's just their government. And yeah, I don't believe anything the Chinese government produces because we can't double check them. I also don't believe certain politicians who are a mayor in a certain town recently that I can't double check because they've managed to silence people. I mean, seriously, Detroit, the fuck's going on? Or maybe it's your town. You never know. And that's the point. We don't feel comfortable with our own country and our own ability to double check our people who are in power. But when you deal with a country where it's overtly obvious that they will kill reporters, they'll poison somebody on an airplane till he's screaming because he's a political opponent of Putin. When you deal with countries that have governments that are doing that and getting away with it, everything they say should be considered a lie immediately. You should never assume otherwise because there's no way to double check them. Just like a corporation, if you can't dig into their data, you don't know what they're saying is true. Zuckerberg. By the way, I did a video about why you shouldn't trust Zuckerberg's website for jack shit right now. And why is the media using Facebook pages with no ability to fact check them as a data source? I don't know. People like me that would be able to do it if Facebook would stop preventing me from doing so. But let's not talk about your mother. I got a your mom joke in there. Anyway. Yes, the link would be showing to other people. I don't think there's anything to hide here, so I'll let the comments show. And if anybody's curious why your comments don't show on my channel immediately, it's because I can't let them. Because somebody's been going around putting spam under people's videos, some of you have noticed it, that lead to a page with a specific girl with a couple of tattoos on her hip, naked, doing something, and then it leads to a malware installer that's probably working for the Russian bots or Chinese bots, or maybe it's the bots for your local politician. I don't know. So I have to make, there's never been a reason I've had to not limit this stuff. So yeah, I'll let those comments post. Thank you for asking. And thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And my opinion is anything the Russian government officially says and anything the Chinese government officially says should be immediately assumed to be a lie. First, unless you can double check it, ignore it. It's bullshit. And the dissidents most of the time tell the truth, but you still have to fact check them. And yes, there are Chinese and probably Russian assets running around in every free country on this planet that doesn't keep them out. They go around screwing with dissidents that have escaped them. And I personally witnessed this from China only. Well, not just China, but that's the only one I can easily confirm because even the cops were aware of it. It was so poorly done. It's not at all like the movie Red Sparrow. They're not really going to blend in. They stick out like a sore thumb. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.